The red warning lights blinked across Kepler Station like angry eyes in the darkness. Dr. Ji-woo Park stood at the main observation window, her fingers moving quickly over the glowing control panel. Numbers and charts filled the air in front of her, showing something terrible coming from deep space. "This is not right," she said quietly in Korean, then spoke louder in the common space language so her alien friends could understand. "These monsters are not moving like they should." Commander Taemin Lee walked over to stand next to her. Even though he worked as a scientist now, he still stood like a soldier. His sharp eyes looked at the same data that worried Ji-woo. "What? Do you mean not right?" The bug-like alien scientist Morthic made a clicking sound with his mouth. His 6 arms worked at his own computer station, while his big insect eyes looked at them with annoyance. "Humans always think they know better. Our machines show these void beasts are doing what they always do." Ji-woo wanted to argue, but kept quiet. She had worked on this space station for 6 months now. In that time, she learned that most aliens thought humans were too new to space travel. They liked that humans never gave up, but they did not trust human feelings about danger. "Look at this," Timon said, pointing at the display. "This group of monsters is 3 times bigger than any we have seen before, and they are all moving toward the Centauri colonies like they have a plan." Through the thick glass window, dark shapes began to appear from the space clouds. These things were huge and moved like giant snakes through the emptiness. They seemed to eat the light around them, making everything darker. Ji-woo had studied these creatures for years. The void beasts were older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They lived in the empty spaces between stars and came out to hunt when they were hungry. Most of the time, they moved alone or in small groups. But this was different. The biggest monster was larger than all the others. Its body stretched for over a kilometer, covered in what looked like living shadow. As it moved closer to their station, Ji-woo could see its eyes. Each eye was as big as a small spaceship, and they glowed with an intelligence that made her feel cold inside. "How many people live in the Centauri system?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. 12 billion, Taemin answered. 3 human colonies, 2 Valkyrie settlements, and 1 mixed research planet. Morthic stopped working and looked up at them. For the first time since the alarms started, he seemed worried. "You believe they are hunting with purpose?" Ji nodded slowly. "These creatures have been in space for millions of years. They are smart, maybe smarter than us. What if they decided to work together for something big?" The station shook slightly as the approaching monsters got closer. Through the window, they could see more and more of the dark shapes. Some were small, only the size of fighter ships. Others were as big as space stations. But the giant one in front was like nothing they had ever recorded. "Send a message to Earth Command," Timon ordered the communication officer. "Tell them we have a code black situation here." The young officer, another human named So-young Kim, started typing quickly. "Sir, the normal communication channels are not working. Something is blocking our signals." "The void beasts can do that?" Ji-woo asked. Morthic's insect face showed fear now. "In our oldest records, there are stories about the dark times when these creatures worked together. Whole star systems went quiet. We thought they were just stories." The giant monster was now close enough that they could see details on its body. Its skin moved like liquid metal, and smaller creatures crawled along its surface. As they watched, the huge eyes focused directly on their small research station. "It knows we are here," Ji-woo said. The creature's massive head turned toward them, with slow, careful movement. Other monsters began to circle the station like sharks around a wounded fish. But the big one just watched them through the window. "Why is it not attacking?" So-young asked from her communication station. "Maybe it is curious," Taemin suggested. "These things usually avoid our stations." Ji-woo stepped closer to the window. The monster's eye was now only a few hundred meters away, studying her through the glass. She could see intelligence there, old and patient, and hungry. No, she said quietly. It is deciding whether we are worth its time. The station's computer voice announced calmly. Warning. Multiple large objects approaching. Defensive systems are not sufficient for current threat level. Morthic began packing his research data into portable storage units. We should leave now. But Jiwoo could not look away from the giant creature. Something in its ancient gaze told her that running might not be enough. These monsters had decided to hunt together, and when they finished with Centauri, they would look for other targets. The red warning lights continued to flash as the darkness outside grew deeper. The monsters appeared suddenly, like nightmares jumping out of empty space. One moment the area around Kepler Station was quiet, and the next moment it was full of huge dark creatures with long arms that crackled with deadly energy. These arms hit the station's protective shields again and again. Loud alarm sounds filled every room of the station. The computer voice spoke over and over. Emergency. Emergency. All people must leave now. The first shield around the station broke with a sound like thunder. Pieces of metal and glass flew everywhere as the monsters pushed closer. Everyone who does not need to be here, get to the escape ships now, Taman shouted into his communication device. His voice could be heard in every hallway and room of the station. Most of the alien workers were already running toward the small escape ships. Their natural fear told them to save themselves first. The bug-like Valkyrie scientists moved on their 6 legs as fast as they could. The tall, thin Arcturians folded their long bodies to fit through doorways as they rushed to safety. But Jiwoo was still in her laboratory, working as fast as she could at her computer. Her research about the void beasts was too important to lose. If she could send this information to Earth, maybe other people could learn how to fight these creatures. Come on, she said to herself in Korean as her fingers pressed buttons. Quickly. The computer showed that her files were copying to Earth command. Numbers on the screen counted up slowly. 70%, 75%, 80% around her. The station shook as more parts broke. Warning lights flashed red and yellow. The computer announced that the outer walls had holes in them and air was escaping into space. Just 30 more seconds, she whispered, watching the numbers climb higher. That was when the thick metal door of her lab exploded into pieces. The giant monster she had seen through the window was now inside her small laboratory. The creature was so big that most of its body was still in the hallway outside. Only its enormous head fit through the broken doorway. G-Wu looked up at the thing that had come to kill her. This close, she could see every terrible detail. Its teeth were as long as her arm and sharp like black glass. Its skin moved and changed like dark water, and strange symbols glowed underneath the surface. The eyes that looked down at her were older than her entire planet, in the escape ships floating safely away from the station. Morthic and the other alien scientists watched through small cameras. They could see everything that was happening in the laboratory. The human woman is finished, Morthic said with no emotion in his voice. Too bad, but this is what we expected would happen. The other aliens nodded their heads. They had seen many species die when they met void beasts. The outcome was always the same. The monster's head, which was bigger than the largest truck Jiwoo had ever seen, came down closer to her. She could feel something like breath moving her hair, even though she was not sure these creatures actually breathed air. The smell was like old metal and burned electricity. For several long seconds, the hunter and the hunted looked at each other. Jiwoo did not move or speak. The monster did not attack. They simply stared into each other's eyes. Then something changed in the creature's ancient gaze. Its massive eyes became smaller, like it was thinking hard about something. This tiny person in front of it had not done what all the others did. She had not run away, screaming like the other aliens. She had not fallen down and begged for her life. She had not closed her eyes and waited to die. The alpha beast had traveled across the galaxy for millions of years. It had hunted and killed members of thousands of different species. All of them did the same things when they knew death was coming. Some tried to run, even when running was impossible. Some cried and asked the beast not to hurt them. Others simply gave up and accepted that their lives were over. But this small human did something completely different. She stood where she was and looked back at the monster. Her dark eyes studied the creature's face and body like she was still learning about it. Even with death only inches away, she was still thinking like a scientist. The beast tilted its enormous head to one side, confused. In all its long life, it had never met prey that acted this way. Other creatures feared it, which was natural and expected. But this human seemed more curious than afraid. Jiwoo's heart was beating fast, but her mind was still working. She noticed how the creature's skin changed color slightly when it was thinking. She saw how its eyes moved to look at different parts of her body, like it was trying to understand what kind of animal she was. "You have never seen anything like me before, have you?" she said quietly in Korean. The monster did not understand her words, but it heard something in her voice that made it pause. This was not the sound of fear or surrender. This was the voice of someone who was still fighting, even when fighting seemed impossible. The beast had found something new in the galaxy, and it was not sure what to do about it. The monster attacked faster than lightning. Its giant mouth opened wide, showing rows of sharp teeth that could cut through metal. The creature moved to swallow Jiwoo whole in one bite, but Jiwoo's body moved without her thinking about it. Millions of years ago, her ancestors had lived on a dangerous planet where everything tried to kill them. Those ancient survival skills were still inside her, waiting to save her life. She dropped to the floor and rolled under the beast's attack, while the creature's huge head smashed into the wall behind where she had been standing. Her hands grabbed the emergency plasma torch from its holder on the wall. This tool was meant for cutting metal, but it would cut monster flesh just as well. Jiwoo turned on the plasma torch and pushed it deep into the soft skin under the beast's jaw. The hot energy burned through the creature's flesh like a knife through butter. The alpha beast pulled back and made a horrible sound like metal being torn apart. Dark blood splashed across the laboratory walls. In all its long life, no prey had ever hurt it so quickly and so badly. "This cannot be happening," Morthik said quietly from his escape ship. His big insect eyes stared at the small camera screen that showed the laboratory. She should be dead by now. But Jiwoo was not finished fighting. While the monster shook its head from the pain, she was already moving to her next attack. Her human brain worked faster than any computer, seeing dangers and chances everywhere around her. The laboratory became her weapon. She ran to the power control panel and made the electrical wires carry too much energy. Bright sparks flew between her and the beast like a wall of lightning. The creature tried to reach her, but the electricity burned its skin. Then Jiwoo opened the air cleaning systems and filled part of the room with poisonous gas. The beast's eyes began to water, and it had trouble breathing. While it was distracted, she changed the artificial gravity controls. Suddenly, the monster felt like it weighed 10 times more than normal, and it crashed to the floor. The beast was used to winning fights by being bigger and scarier than anything else. But now it was fighting something completely new, a human who got more dangerous when things got worse. Every time the creature tried to attack Jiwoo, she found a new way to fight back. When it swung its long arm at her, she made the lights explode in its face. When it tried to grab her with its tentacles, she turned on the emergency fire system and filled the air with foam that made it hard to see. The monster managed to scratch Jiwoo's arm with one of its claws. The cut was deep and painful, but instead of making her weaker, it seemed to make her think more clearly, where other species would have given up from the pain. Jiwoo used her anger to fight even harder. She noticed something important while she was changing the station's systems to fight the beast. All the monsters outside were connected somehow. When she hurt this one, she could see the others in space react at the same time. Their minds were linked together like computers in a network. They share the same brain, she said to herself in Korean. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels, learning more about how the connection worked. The beast tried to corner her near the main computer, but Ji-woo was ready. She had discovered that the creatures used something called quantum entanglement to talk to each other instantly across space. The biggest monster was like the main computer that controlled all the others. While the alpha beast prepared for another attack, Ji-woo was already planning how to use this knowledge. If she could find a way to damage their shared connection, maybe she could hurt all of them at once. The creature lunged at her again, and this time its claws caught her shoulder. Ji-woo rolled with the impact and ended up near the quantum communication equipment. As dark blood ran down her arm, an idea formed in her mind. "You made a mistake coming here," she told the beast in Korean. The monster did not understand her words, but it could hear the dangerous confidence in her voice. Ji-woo began typing commands into the quantum communication system. The beast realized she was planning something and tried to stop her, but she had already turned the nearby equipment into traps. Every time the creature moved closer, another system attacked it with electricity, heat, or crushing force. The other aliens watching from their escape ships could not believe what they were seeing. This small human was not just surviving against an impossible enemy. She was winning. How is she doing this? One of the Arcturian scientists asked. Morthic watched the screens with growing amazement. She is not fighting like prey. She is fighting like a predator. In the laboratory, Ji-woo finished her preparations and looked up at the wounded beast. Her clothes were torn and she was bleeding, but her eyes were bright with intelligence and determination. "Let me show you why humans are dangerous," she said, and pressed the final button. The fight moved out of the laboratory and into the long hallways of Kepler Station. It was like watching a deadly game where both players tried to outsmart each other at incredible speed. The giant alpha beast moved through the corridors with surprising grace for something so huge. But Ji-woo had something the creature could never understand. Humans were built to hunt by never giving up. Long ago on Earth, human ancestors would chase animals for days until the prey became too tired to run anymore. While the beast tried to win with size and strength, Ji-woo used patience and clever planning. She ran through parts of the station where she had broken the artificial gravity systems. The monster suddenly found itself floating in the air one moment and then crashed to the floor the next. While it struggled to figure out which way was up or down, Ji-woo moved easily through the changing gravity like she was swimming through water. "Look at this," Taemin said from his escape ship, his voice full of amazement. He was watching the security cameras that showed the fight. "She is not just trying to stay alive. She is hunting the monster." Ji-woo led the beast past sections of the station's outer wall that she had made weak with her plasma torch. When the creature's heavy body hit these spots, the metal bent and cracked. Then she used the emergency doors to slam shut and trap the monster's arms and tentacles. The alpha beast became more and more angry with each trick Ji-woo played on it. This tiny human should have been eaten in the first few seconds of their fight. Instead, she was showing something that made humans different from every other species the void beasts had ever met. Humans never accepted that they had lost. Other creatures would panic or give up when facing something so much bigger and stronger. But humans had learned over millions of years that giving up meant death, so they never stopped fighting, no matter how bad things looked. Ji-woo had been working on the station's quantum communication system while she ran from the beast. This equipment was normally used to send messages across space faster than light, but she had changed it into something else entirely. She turned it into a weapon that could attack the monster's shared mind. The chase led them to the command center, the most important room on the station. Here Ji-woo would make her final move. She understood now how all the void beasts were connected to each other through quantum entanglement. Their thoughts and feelings flowed between them like electricity, through wires. The Alpha Beast followed her into the command center, sure that it had finally cornered its prey. Its massive body filled most of the room, and its ancient eyes glowed with hunger and rage. But Jiwoo was ready. She had prepared a trap that would use the creature's own strength against it. The quantum communication array was now set up to create a feedback loop, a signal that would bounce back and forth, getting stronger each time. The monster sensed danger too late. As it jumped forward to finally kill the small human, Jiwoo pressed the activation button. The feedback signal shot through the quantum connection instantly. It traveled to every void beast in the swarm, hitting their shared consciousness like a hammer. The signal grew stronger as it bounced between their minds, overloading their ancient neural networks. In the emptiness of space around the station, hundreds of void beasts suddenly writhed in pain. Their dark bodies twisted and shook as the feedback pulse burned through their connected thoughts. Some of the smaller creatures simply stopped moving, their minds completely destroyed by the overload. The Alpha Beast, being the main connection point for all the others, received the worst damage. Its huge body crashed to the floor of the command center, shaking and trembling as brain pathways that had worked for millions of years simply burned out like broken electrical wires. Jiwoo stood over the dying creature, still holding her plasma torch in her bloody hands. Through the quantum link that was now breaking apart, she could feel the entire swarm's confusion and terror. Their ancient intelligence was falling apart like a building with no foundation. The beast's massive eyes looked up at her one last time. In those ancient orbs, she could see something that had never been there before: fear. For millions of years, these creatures had been the hunters, the things that other species ran from in terror. But now they had met something they could not understand or defeat. "We do not quit," Jiwoo said quietly in Korean, looking down at the creature that had tried to kill her. "That is why you should fear us." The Alpha Beast's eyes slowly went dark as its brain finally stopped working. Around the station, the other void beasts drifted in space like ships without pilots. Their shared intelligence was broken, and they no longer knew what to do. For the first time in their existence, the void beasts had learned what it meant to be truly afraid. They had met human determination, and they could not overcome it. In his escape ship, Morthic stared at the camera, screens in shock. "How did she do that?" he whispered. Tae-Min smiled with pride. "She did what humans do best. She refused to lose." Complete silence filled the space around Kepler Station. Through the broken windows, Jiwoo could see the void beast swarm floating, without moving in the darkness. Her attack on their shared mind had worked. The quantum network that connected all the creatures was destroyed. The Alpha Beast lay on the floor next to her, its huge ancient eyes now empty and dark. Jiwoo sat down hard against a broken computer console. Her body was finally feeling all the pain from her many wounds. Blood ran from cuts on her arms, shoulder, and face. But she was alive, and the monsters were defeated. Around her, the station's emergency systems began to work again. Lights flickered on in the damaged rooms. The computer voice announced that repair robots were starting to fix the holes in the walls. Taemin's voice came through the communication system with static and noise. "Jiwoo, can you hear me? What is your condition?" "Enemy destroyed," she answered in Korean first, then changed to the common space language. "The swarm is broken. They have no leader now. They are leaving." She looked out the window and saw the rescue ships coming toward the station. But Jiwoo did not move from where she sat. Even though her wounds hurt badly, she had important work to finish. She pulled out her portable computer and began typing notes about everything that had happened. "I need to record all of this," she said to herself. "Other people will face these creatures again. They need to know how to fight them. The rescue team found her still in the command center an hour later, refusing to let the medical workers treat her cuts until she had written down every detail of the battle. Her research would help save millions of lives when humans met void beasts in the future, within just a few hours. News of the fight spread through the galaxy's communication networks faster than light itself. The security cameras on Kepler Station had recorded everything. Soon, beings on thousands of worlds were watching the incredible footage of one small, human woman defeating a creature that had frightened civilizations for millions of years. The video showed Gu using only basic station equipment and her own determination to outsmart and destroy the Alpha Beast. Alien leaders watched in amazement as she turned every part of the station into a weapon and refused to give up even when death seemed certain. Morthic sat in his escape ship, looking at the data from the battle over and over again. For the first time, he truly understood what made humans different from his own species and all the others in the galaxy. He sent a message to the Valkyrie High Command on his home world. We have been wrong about humans. They do not fight to win battles. They fight because the idea of losing is something they cannot accept. They will turn anything into a weapon, their tools, their environment, their own pain, even the moment of their death, before they will surrender. As medical ships took Jiwoo away for treatment, the news continued to spread. On every world, with space travel, military leaders and scientists began to change their opinions about humanity. The message was very clear to everyone who saw the footage. Humans were not dangerous because they had the best weapons or the smartest technology. Other species had both of those things in greater amounts. Humans were dangerous because, when everything seemed hopeless, when any reasonable being would give up and accept defeat, humans simply refused to lose. This made them unpredictable and extremely difficult to defeat. On the Arcturian homeworld, the tall, thin aliens watched the footage with their large eyes wide in surprise. How can such a small creature be so determined? Their leaders asked each other. The crystalline beings of Vega studied the video with their collective mind. This human turned her certain death into victory. We must remember this when we deal with their species. Even the proud warrior culture of the Sun, who had always looked down on humans as weak newcomers to space, began to see them differently. Perhaps we have underestimated Earth's children, their war chiefs admitted. In the medical bay of the rescue ship, Giwu finally allowed the doctors to treat her wounds. As they worked, she continued to type notes on her computer with one hand. Why? Do you keep working? Asked the alien doctor, treating her shoulder. You should rest. Giwu looked up at him with tired but determined eyes. Because somewhere out there, another human might face these creatures. They need to know what I learned. They need to know how to win. The doctor, a being from a species that valued knowledge, above all else, nodded with new respect. Even wounded and exhausted, this human was still thinking about how to help others survive. As the rescue ship carried Jiwoo toward the nearest medical station, her story continued to spread through the galaxy. The legend of the human who refused to die became known on every world, and in the darkness between stars. The surviving void beasts drifted aimlessly through space. Their ancient collective intelligence was broken, but somewhere in their damaged minds, a new understanding had formed. They had learned to fear humans, not for their strength, but for something far more dangerous, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. This made humanity the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and every intelligent being now knew it. The end.